Hi everybody, Reva here with Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and in our recent catalog I had a couple of tips about how to make holiday gifts, and one of them is a pot holder. So I just wanted to share some quick tips on making pot holders. Now this one is just a continuous bound one. This one has a little hangy loop on it. I personally like them without a hanging loop because I never hang them up. So you could choose whichever way you want to do it. But I want to go through the process of making the pot holder. So you can start with something fun like this little wreath is really cute, and so is the little candy cane. But before we get to this, let's start at the very beginning, what you need. Now, you can use plain fabric, you can use an orphan quilt block, or you can even make a quilt block. So I have a couple of really cute little quilt blocks. I don't even know what these were from. I made them for something, but anyway, here they are. They were just left lying around my sewing room, so these would make a perfect pot holder. Now this one he's 8 by 8 finished here, and I really like my pot holders to start with an 8 by 8 block. That's my personal preference. You can make them whatever size you want. This is an 8 by 8. This is an 8 by 8. So let's talk about what goes into a pot holder. Well, you need a fabric on the top and you need a fabric on the bottom. I could do something like that if I want to, but I probably don't want to. So I would find a coordinating fabric for my back. And I'm going to lay that down. It's wrong sides up. Then what I like to do is I like to put a layer of batting in there. Now, batting, this is a warm and natural. It's actually warm and white because it's not the natural color, it's white. So I'm going to use this one, and can you see it's not even a straight piece. It's just a scrap. So I'm going to come over here and I want to see if my little square will fit in there, because I want to waste as little product as possible. So that's good. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to hack off a piece of batting, and I'm making the batting bigger than my square. Okay? Then one thing to know about warm or cotton battings is that they're great for fluff and softness, but they really don't keep the heat too much away from you. So I'm going to add this for the aesthetics of it, but then I'm going to add a layer of this. This is from Floriani. It's called Hot Cold Barrier Fleece. And what this does is, if you can see, can you see the little aluminum? Can you see it kind of shimmer, shine there? This, I said aluminum. I don't know if it's aluminum. I don't know what it's made out of. But you get this really big piece, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take my piece of batting that I already cut, right? And I'm just going to cut me one layer of this. Now the Hot Cold Barrier Fleece is really awesome because it will do just what it says. It will protect your hands from the hot, and then it will also keep things cold. So if you want to use this for lunch boxes and snack things like that, I've done a lot of that. So that will help protect your hands and protect your food as well. So that's kind of fun. I always like to have this in my sewing room, so that way I always have some. So I'm just going to put that I'll put that up later. But what I want to do is I have my back fabric right here, and I'm going to take my Hot Cold Barrier Fleece. Now, one side is more fleecy, the other is more shimmery. I'm going to put the fleecy side down. I don't know that it really matters which one you put down, but I'm going to put down the fleecy side because that way it will be a little bit softer on, from the back side of the pot holder, okay? Because this side with the metallic look isn't as fluffy as that side. Then I put my batting on top of that, and then we're going to quilt. Now before I quilt, I'm going to do a couple things. I might take my Quilter Select glue pen and put a couple of little pieces on that just to hold it in place. and the same thing here. One thing I like about this glue pen is that it dries really quick, and then the color, the yellow, makes it so you can see where you put it, and it dries clear. Then I'm going to go and let's just make a quick little rough cut of this. Okay, just want to make sure I only had one layer. I'm just going to chop this out because I don't need all that fabric, but I do want my backing and everything a little bit bigger than my square, so that way when I go now, I want to quilt as desired. So on this particular one, I would probably quilt here and stitch here and stitch here and stitch here, and then call it good. All right. If you're going to be doing your quilting and you did not use the glue stick, then make sure you take some pins and pin your layers together and do it in an area that you're not going to be stitching on. Okay. And then you'll have it, all your layers will be secured and you're ready to go. Personally, I like the glue stick because then I don't have any pins to get poked with. But there, that's ready to go. So do your stitching, whatever stitching you want, and then I do like to run a stitch just right around the edge within a 1/4 inch, so closer than a 1/4 inch around the total edge, just to secure everything together, and then we can trim it out. So let's take a look at what the trimming looks like. So here's one that I've done, and I actually can get 2 hot pads out of this. So I've already done all my quilting. I did crosshatch on this, and it's the same on the front as it is on the back. So that's no big deal on that one. But you would simply cut this into an 8-inch square. You know, just trim it up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get it all the corners ready to go. So now I noticed that my edges are a little bit crooked, so I'm lining this up so I have a line on my ruler straight with the edge of my fabric there, and I'll take my rotary cutter and we're going to just trim it off. Okay, so there's that one. And now I'm going to move this over to the edge of my fabric. Did you see how the fabric just stuck to my ruler? That's one thing I love about the Quilter Select rulers, is that they have grip to them and they don't slip off of the fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to line this up with my 8 over here. And okay, so now that's 8 inches wide. So now we're going to rotate it, and I'm going to line up my edges with the lines on the mat. And that's another thing that's really neat about Quilter Select products, is that the lines on the mat actually line up with the ruler, so you know that you're going to get a straight cut. Okay, and I bumped it, but now I'm going to come over to my 8-inch. And you notice I'm going to get a little bit of extra on this one left over here, but that's okay because I can use that for a scrubby or something else, or a little trivet, or take 2 of them and you can make a pot handle, which would really be cool. Okay, so let's put that down there. So now I have my square. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you can leave your squares perfectly square, or you can round them. And when you round them, you don't have to do a mitered corner, so it's kind of like a cheating. Not really, it's all fun. So I like to round my corners off, and you can do that any different way that you like to do. I love to use my this is a Creative Grids little ruler, and you can hold it right there and then just go around and use your rotary, or you can use a marking pen. And this is a real honest to goodness pen, and it doesn't matter because it's going to be that's going to be my cut line, so no one's going to see that. And then you can just use your scissors and cut around the shape. So having just that little bit of curve there is going to make it so you can do a continuous sew around with your batting. Okay, or I'm sorry, with your binding. Okay, so let's look at that real quick. I'm going to give you a quick little start and stop with the batting. So the binding. We're going to go over here to the machine, and here is the machine. I have it set on just a standard straight stitch, and this is actually bias. There's a couple of reasons that you want actual bias. Now, to get a tutorial on cutting bias, you can go back and look at one of our how-do-Is that we have on bias, making bias tape. But I have bias for two reasons. One, this was a straight stripe, and it's really stinking cute on an angle. And then also going around corners, it will curve better if you go it curves around the curve better if it's on bias because it has stretch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start on the bottom, start sewing. And I want my end to be about right here. So I'm going to leave a tail and I'll start sewing here and all the way around. You really want to try to have your join not dead center on the top, because if it was dead center on the top, it's going to be a little bit more noticeable. And depending on how comfortable you are creating your binding, it may differ there for you. Okay, so I'm just going to pop my little foot underneath there, and I will actually move it over a little bit so I have a little bit less, about a 1/4 inch for my seam allowance. A little bit more than a 1/4 inch, but less than a half. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch around. Let me move my tools. I'm just going to stitch right around. And then when I get to my curve, you just want to make sure that you hold it smooth and work your way around the corner. And if you need to, when you stop, if your machine has the pivot like this one, then just give it that's really helpful because it will raise up that presser foot for you, and then you can adjust your fabric and just work yourself around your corner. So really, really easy. And then when you get back to the beginning, you can simply overlap your seams. Okay, so let me get around. Well, I got to pay attention. I was talking to you and not looking where I was going. So let's come back here. I went off because I wasn't paying attention. So I'll just go back and pick it up again. Keep stitching. All right. I just want to show you how I joined it. So I think that will be helpful. And then we're going to use our glue stick again here in a second to get our bias just turned very beautifully under. So if you haven't worked with bias, you don't need to be afraid of it. It's really pretty easy to work with. And look, I did it again. I got off my line, so I'll just come back to where I was in the right spot and start up there and then work my way back around. I was paying attention to how much slack I had in my binding, which I didn't have much. So if you're easily distracted like me, it's okay to go back and fix whatever it is that you didn't do. All right. So around we go. All right, so now we're back to we're right in front of where we stopped. We just have one more curve to go around. So we'll get up here. And then we're going to go around the curve, and I'm going to make this a really, really simple end for our binding. This is not how I would necessarily do a quilt, but I want to show you an easy way to do it because it's like more of a craft project, right? Something that we want to make it for someone as a gift and make it really fast and easy. Okay, so I'm around the circle there, and I'm going to go back, make a little knot, and then cut my thread. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my fabric and my scissors, and I'm going to cut my fabric off. Now I'm not going to worry about meeting those tails up exactly, but what I am going to do is the piece that we started with, I'm going to fold under so I have an angle. Can you see that? I'm going to fold it down so the tail's hanging outside of my project. And then this guy's going to come around and go in, and then I'm going to just kind of angle him. I'm going to angle him so he goes off, because when they fold over, I don't want him to show. So I'm just going to angle him a little bit, and then I'm going to finish doing my sewing. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing, and then I'm going to pull that a little bit more so he's off the edge, and then I'll show you what that looks like here. Okay, so here's the under piece is hanging off, and once I got to here, then I gave that a little tug, so it's just ever so slightly off the edge there. Okay, this guy can get trimmed off, and now we're going to turn everything to the back side, and then there's my join. That's actually pretty good, right? Okay, so I'm going to turn this to the back side, and you can clip or you can pin. You can do whatever it is you want. I like to use my glue stick and just put a little glue stick and hold down my edges. So I'll run some glue right there and stick that down and do a little bit more, and I just do a little bit at a time. And then when you get to your corners, just make sure the corners are not pulling in too tightly. Put some glue there and then stick them down, and then you've got this really cute little edge that's coming along. When you're gluing it or you're pinning it, whichever way you go, you can kind of feel your thumb right here where the seam is between the binding and your project, and then pinch your fingers together, and on the back you can feel where your thumb is in relation to your finger. So I can tell that right here that fabric is reaching over, and you want to have the fabric reach, the binding reach past the stitch line. So let's take a look right here. There's the stitched line. I want my fabric to go over it, because then what we can do is just go along and stitch right in that seam line. It's called stitching in the ditch, and you stitch right in that joined area, and then you catch the back, and you have a done pot holder. So really fun and easy. So no matter which way you want to go, if you want to do it with just plain fabric, you want to do it with a quilt block, or whatever you want to do, it's lots of fun. So other things to think about, remember you want to use the hot cold barrier fleece, because that's going to protect your surface, it's going to protect your hands. You can do the same thing with something bigger to make a placemat, or maybe a table runner that can act as a trivet, so you don't have to put something down on the table. You can just have a really pretty thing. And then for these, just to have some fun block ideas, this is really cool. I use the block builder set, and this is the Christmas one. So in here, these are just so much fun. Let's just grab one. Let's see what we get here. So on here, here's the pattern, and then on the back it gives you the size that you need to cut of each of the fabrics, and that you have choices. So you could do a 6-inch, an 8, a 10, a 12, or a 36-inch finished unit. So you can make them whatever size you want. I chose to do the 8-inch for mine, so that's what I picked. So this is just a deck full of all sorts of different inspiring, look, there's Santa. You could just have so much fun. There's the one that I did, the little wreath. So lots of fun things that you can do, and there's my other one right there. So lots of fun to use the quilt builder set if you want some inspiring ideas of fun things to make. And you can just use scraps, because you're only making a pot holder, and they make great gifts. So have on hand your hot cold barrier fleece, take your orphan blocks or whatever it is, and put them together and make a wonderful gift of a pot holder, something everyone can use and everyone will appreciate.